Ray Richardson.
LeBron appears to be getting close to making his debut this season with the Lakers. The Lakers are sending LeBron to their G League affiliate, the South Bay Lakers, to give him some practice time and game action. LeBron, who turns 41 on December 30th, has missed the Lakers' first 11 games and all of training camp and the preseason. He's been sidelined with a sciatic nerve injury in his lower back and left leg. LeBron has not been able to practice with the Lakers, which prompted the move to send him to the G League. LeBron has been cleared to participate in 5-on-5 workouts with the South Bay team beginning Thursday. The next game for South Bay is Sunday at 5 p.m. against the Rip City Remix, the Portland Trail Blazers G League affiliate. Sunday's game is a home game for South Bay, which plays at the UCLA Health Training Center in El Segundo. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, standing with you in perilous times. If you've been impacted by the federal government shutdown or the discontinuation of SNAP benefits, you can find a food bank near you that's offering free groceries by going to lafoodbank.org or call 211. Additionally, LA County offers free meals at certain parks. There are meals and snacks for kids and seniors. Visit parks.lacounty.gov to find out which centers are offering which programs and to register in advance. And in addition to offering 2 free meals per day for all students, the LA Unified School District provides weekend meal kits for its students by request. The meal kits can be picked up on Fridays at grab-and-go locations. Please visit lausd.org/Cafe LA. That's lausd.org/CAFELA. We keep us safe. We keep us provided for. We keep us connected. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Healthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are still celebrating the lives of our veterans, our men and women who have put their lives on the line for the nation, and the unique position that many African American service persons find themselves in, both throughout history, having to defend the rights of the nation, while the nation itself did not necessarily always support or defend the rights of African Americans, including but not limited to the need for 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. But even before these amendments were added to the Constitution to seemingly guarantee us our citizenship rights, we fought in the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812, and even in the Civil War. And then the struggle in first Reconstruction for the right to vote, after the 15th Amendment, the period of Jim Crow, which was one of the most violent periods for African Americans in the nation's history, the passage of Brown versus the Board of Education, or the decision in the Supreme Court, the death of Emmett Till, the struggle that led to Rosa Parks sitting in Montgomery, and the struggle in Birmingham, through the Civil Rights Movement, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and subsequent public accommodations legislation, which quite frankly, only our generation, I'm age 60, has come to know. This is a very new America. Every day that we live, America is different than the day it was on its founding. No July 4th is the same. There was a July 4th on July 4th, 1776, where only white men could vote. That's not the same as the July 4th after the 15th Amendment, or the July 4th after the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Every July 4th is different. Every Thanksgiving in America is different. Every major holiday in this evolving nation is different, because we are either granting people more rights or we are restricting their rights. and no group of people can claim their citizenship rights greater than those Americans who put their lives on the line during this veterans commemoration and celebration of their lives in service for our nation than our nation's veterans. But the African American veteran has a very specific story to tell. With that said, before I bring on our co-host, I do want to say that I've listened very carefully to the shows this morning. Dominique DePrima did an extraordinary job, and Tavis gave us a report on our efforts with Southern California Edison. I have not heard from the boss as to whether or not we are cutting Mr. Pizarro any slack. So since I haven't heard, we're not going to cut him any slack. We are trying to reach the president and CEO of California Edison, Pedro Pizarro, PEDRO.PIZARRO@SCE.com. His number is 626-302-2255. Press number 1 to get to the president's office. I'm still looking for his cell number because if I get a hold of it, we're going to talk about that on the radio as well, because Tavis Smiley and certainly KBLA has earned the right and the respect that they deserve to have Southern California Edison return their call. Mr. Pizarro, you need to talk to Tavis. Your very cryptic letter that you sent, from my perspective, and I think the general perspective of the station based upon the commentary that I've heard, is not acceptable. Not acceptable. We are grown, responsible people. Tavis is a multi-award-winning journalist. I am a 17-year former member of Congress. I have my own accolades associated with what we do, and we expect the dignity and the decency of you returning our call. That's just basic. And Mr. Smiley is a very reasonable person on behalf of the people of Altadena, whose Thanksgiving is not going to be quite like yours. I learned something today. You make $12 million a year, while our people are struggling to, at Thanksgiving time, to remember their memories, what memories they have left after the malfunction of your equipment, your company's equipment in Altadena, costing people their lives, their memories. Some people will never have pictures of their families, their grandparents, their loved ones ever again. And we think that that this report that you did comment on, your third quarter earnings and your fourth quarter earnings, are not truly reflecting our losses. And so we don't think that you're at a profitable margin right now. And so there's some problems with your documentation because you don't take into account what has taken place in our families, in our homes. With that said, my very special guest in the first hour is none other than former Deputy Executive Director for the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. He's a strategic alliance consultant and president of Party Politics US. He's worked as a TV political contributor for BNC News, The Heat, In the Know with Mo, The Leslie Marshall Show, iHeartRadio, GovExec, 96.3, WHUR, and One American News Network. He most recently was a guest on Host on Rising, an American daily news and opinion web series produced by Washington, D.C.'s political newspaper, The Hill. In 2020, T-Bird released his first novel, Saving Grace, a political thriller. We're also going to have a guest joining us on the program as well. But in this opening segment, let me say hello to Atiba. Atiba, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to your show, Conversations with Atiba.
Hey, Jesse, it's good to be with you. Happy Wednesday and happy Veterans Day. I know as we observed it yesterday, to all of our servicemen and women who have served and to their families.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful that we are still acknowledging that. We're going to be acknowledging that throughout the rest of the week. Atiba, we have just about a minute before we come forward. Some initial thoughts about the role of African-American men and women in service to their nation.
Yeah, I have a lot that I could say. One, my father served in the Air Force. My grandfather served in the Army, so did his brother, and his sister served in the American Red Cross during World War II. And then my uncles also served. And it's mentioned in this on my mother's side, on my father's side, also my two oldest uncles, my father's two oldest brothers served. And we've come a long way, but we got a long way to go. And it's a sad occurrence that we're actually right now still coming to the tail end of this government shutdown and hearing stories about 20% of our American servicemen and women who are on SNAP. And so hopefully we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that. But in the more positive light, I really want to just say, again, thank you to our servicemen and women who every day do all the best of us who are protecting our right to liberty here in America.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580, or when we come forward with our conversations with Atiba.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attention. Have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers, so don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-237-8585. That's 800-237-8585. Again, that's 800-237-8585.
This Thanksgiving at Total Wine & More, find bourbons and Cabernets that you adore. Our helpful guides are so friendly and nice, so many bottles to try at the lowest price. So gather with friends as you sit down to eat. Grateful for all who made Thanksgiving complete.
With curbside pickup and delivery available and the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21. An official message from Medicare.
Medicare plans change from one year to the next. And this year, it's important for you to review your current coverage and compare all your options during Medicare open enrollment. Compare health plans, drug coverage, and costs. See if you can save some money, and don't forget to make sure your drugs are covered. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Visit Medicare.gov or call 1-800-MEDICARE.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to Conversations with Atiba on Wealthy Wednesdays. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Good to be here.
Thank you, Atiba. Hey, listen, Gina has a quick clip on veterans that I wanted to follow up on your comments about veterans on SNAP benefits. Why don't we roll that clip?
Private diaries recovered after the war document this transformation. In December 1944, guards wrote about being confused by Negro prisoners who contradicted everything they'd been taught. By March 1945, as Germany's collapse became obvious, these entries had evolved into broader questioning of Nazi ideology itself. Guards wrote about being lied to, about realizing their government had made them complicit in great evil, about learning lessons from prisoners they'd been taught to despise. Not every guard experienced such transformation. Many maintained their racism until death. But enough German soldiers encountered educated black POWs that the experience created cracks in Nazi racial ideology's foundation. The SS and dedicated Nazis responded to reports of educated black prisoners with various forms of denial. Some argued the prisoners were lying about their education. Others suggested American propaganda had trained them to memorize German phrases. Still others insisted that any education these men possessed proved the benefits of white civilization, not Negro capability. But these arguments became harder to maintain as evidence accumulated. Black prisoners who discussed complex technical matters, who translated military documents accurately, who analyzed Wehrmacht tactical decisions with sophistication, who demonstrated knowledge spanning literature, engineering, history, and military science. Intelligence reports from early 1945 made the contradiction explicit. One interrogation officer wrote a classified report that stated, "Continued interaction with educated Negro prisoners forces reconsideration of racial capabilities. These men demonstrate intelligence, education, and military competence indistinguishable from white prisoners. Previous assessments based on racial theory appear fundamentally flawed." The report was suppressed. Higher command had no interest in documents questioning Nazi ideology, particularly as military collapse made ideology.
Atiba, the Negro's very presence in World War II in Nazi Germany was a problem for the ideology and the philosophy of Nazism. In that, in this particular video, it talked about the education of the Negro, how he defied every conceivable odd. When you think about Jesse Owens, when you think about Max Schmeling and Joe Louis, and you think about those African Americans who made that contribution, both their pledge of allegiance and loyalty to the flag, to the nation, but also having to come back home and experience the kind of discrimination that they experienced. My grandfather too served in World War II. In fact, both of my grandfathers, one served in the Navy and one served in the Army, just like your family. It's always been this irony for African Americans between our service and loyalty and fighting for rights and guarantees that the nation itself does not provide for us. Atiba?
Yeah, I agree. My mother has told me stories of her father, my grandfather, who served in World War II, coming home. Now, I kind of preface this with, often we talk about great players like Jackie Robinson. And my grandfather was said to have been an incredible baseball player. But he goes to serve his country, goes to Europe. And while he was in Europe, the Europeans would look at him, and his fellow soldiers would ask, "Why are you looking at us that way?" And they said, "Because some of the American soldiers told us that you all had tails." So, the racism and the propaganda, per se, that, was perpetrated and that was told, and these type of things in terms of how we were and have been portrayed. It makes me also think, when you were just speaking, Jesse, of when I was a child and often hearing people say, when someone like Marion Barry was criticized and beleaguered by a lot of things in the press, that we always have to be better than everyone else. Well, I do think that there is something to be said about that, but I also think that there is something that we've kind of forgotten too, about the fact that we have always excelled and been better. And I say that from the standpoint of when we today speak very highly of the Tuskegee Airmen. We hear in songs like Bob Marley, Buffalo Soldiers, but we don't often know who the Buffalo Soldiers were. And, when we think about the role of African Americans in the military, when we were held back, when we were finally allowed to work and to do the things we became the Benjamin O. Davises, we became the generals, we became the Colin Powells, we became the best of the rest in terms of pilots, and we became the best of the soldiers. And so I think that it's very important that we never, ever stop telling our stories, because within those stories are exemplary stories of not just valor, but of sacrifice, and that we've made for the betterment of this country.
Atiba, what picture and who are we looking at this moment?
This is my grandfather, James Reed. And, I think also, just for a second, I'll take a quick second to say that my grandfather is also in a line of men and women, and I say this because I have a picture. The first thing I see in the morning on my wall is a picture of his grandparents who became free slaves, were freed long before the Civil War came about and before the Emancipation Proclamation came about. And I mention this because his going to serve in the military was a sense of honor, and it was a sense of pride because of our legacy in this of the Reed family in Montrose, Virginia. And there's a lot more that I could say about that, but it wasn't just about going to serve. It was going to serve from a sense of pride of knowing who we were and what we have gone through. And I think that is the story, perhaps also of your grandfather and others, African Americans who served with distinction within our armed services.
I think that, thank you very much for sharing your family photo with us. I think that's probably a universal story in every African American household of a man or a woman who served our nation abroad. They came back home in a kind of juxtaposition of fighting for rights for America that America itself would deny. They also brought something back to us as well that during Jim Crow, we may or may not have experienced by and large as a race. And that was a certain discipline, a certain order, a certain pride about themselves, wearing the uniform, shining their shoes, the way in which they carried themselves with dignity. And many of these fathers and these mothers came home very dignified people whose children would learn from the structure that these men and women were being exposed to for the first time in their lives. And it largely lays the foundation for the Black middle class, the dignity that was associated with the discipline of service. But it also laid the foundation for the order within which we conducted ourselves in our movements. We see Black men and women marching in the 60s. What we don't see is whether or not they wore the uniform, the discipline of the marches and the protests. And for African Americans like Jimmy Lee Jackson to be able to say that I was a veteran. When I came back to the United States and could not vote for the very rights I was fighting for Europeans, it meant something to us. It meant something to us.
Yeah, I mean, it meant something. And my Uncle James Harris, my father's oldest brother, served in the military. He lived to be 93. And Uncle James often said that he thought that letting go of the draft was something that hurt us. And he said from the standpoint, because at least when we were in the draft, our young men were learning another sense of discipline, and also learning different things that could help them in terms of employment, but also being exposed and often being able to leave home, live somewhere else, whether or not it was abroad or somewhere else in the country. So, I think there are times when we can be critical too, unfortunately. And unfortunately, there have been times when our men and women have served in the military and come back because they went to go fight in an unpopular war. I'm speaking, for instance, of Vietnam. But I think that for the most part, there's a reason why we honor our servicemen and women. There's a reason why we have a certain sense of pride for our men and women who serve, because they are making the ultimate sacrifice, I believe, not just in terms of giving their life to this country, but giving their life to protecting the ideals that this country represents.
Mm-hmm. They came back from the wars with certain bona fides, certain credos. We had fought, lost limbs, and we paid the ultimate sacrifice. We dodged bullets. We saved soldiers. We saved hostages. In fact, there's a famous story that's out of Nazi Germany of, I think it's by Elie Wiesel, who said that they were not sure that they should be rescued from the Holocaust until the African American soldiers showed up. Because then, and only then, did they know they were not Nazis, or not Italian fascists who were coming to the camp. When the Negroes showed up, they knew by definition and they were free. It's deep, but I believe that story was told by Elie Wiesel, and in no small measure, it speaks volumes about the duality and the psychology of the men and women who came back from that war and greatly inspired our movements for equal rights. Can we sit at a lunch counter? Can we walk in the front door? Have we earned the right to employment? Have we earned the right to benefits? Have we earned the right to live in certain neighborhoods? And in this moment, because I know that we'll be coming up on a break in just a moment, you know, I think about the men and women in Altadena. You know, I think about those who bought their homes in California. Some of them are veterans, some of them are service people, some of them are middle class working people in our nation who've paid a tremendous sacrifice as African Americans to be able to live in Altadena. And so we don't just bring to this struggle for fairness in Altadena the injustice associated with the fires itself. It's our treatment in light of the fires that speaks to the ongoing lack of respect. It invokes the history for our people in very, very painful ways of people not taking our story seriously. And to think that if such a fire had taken place in Beverly Hills, it'd be hard to imagine that the president and CEO of Southern California, Edison, wouldn't show up with a plan to rebuild Beverly Hills, because Beverly Hills simply wouldn't put up with that if California Edison were responsible. And so we bring all of this history of disrespect to the table. And I can't help myself as we prepare to go for a break in about 2 minutes to encourage people to write pedro.pizarro@sce.com. That's pedro.pizarro@sce.com. You can call him too at 626-302-2255. Press number 1 to get his office. Send him an email. Tell him that we expect him to have a meeting, a sit-down meeting or a sit-down phone call very soon with Brother Tavis Smiley. I'm still looking for a cell number. I've gotten several leads on a cell number, but I want to make sure that the phone numbers that I'm getting are matching. At least a couple of them need to match before I believe it's the real number. And then I'll try the ones that match. That will confirm for me that I am on the right track. Atiba, we have about another minute before we come forward. And then we'll expand this conversation in the next segment. Atiba?
Yeah, you know, and just in terms of where we are, what we do, and in terms of the things that we've gone through, I think that, you know, ultimately, Jesse, we have to keep telling the story. We cannot stop telling the story ever. I think that that's often, you know, whatever it is that those things that are going on, that are happening to us historically, we know that history has an uncanny way of repeating itself. So if we're not telling our story, someone will tell it for us, and they'll change it.
I appreciate you, Atiba. More with Conversations with Atiba. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on Wealthy Wednesdays on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Atiba when we come forward.
The biggest names, the best conversations. You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former NFL star Antonio Brown is out on bond and can work while wearing an ankle monitor as he faces attempted murder charges in Miami.
He is on video attacking the victim and chasing him down and shooting at him.
His lawyer says he acted in self-defense during a May shooting. Brown was extradited from Dubai after 5 months and surrendered his passport. Sean Diddy Combs may lose his phone and commissary privileges for 3 months after being caught on an unauthorized three-way call. The 56-year-old is serving 4 years for transporting to engage in prostitution, but could cut time through a prison rehab program. And Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic will step down when his term ends February 28th. The first Black and openly gay regional Fed president, Bostic's exit could pave the way for more rate cuts. Fed Chair Jerome Powell praised his leadership and service. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Families have been loving LifeSource Whole House Water Systems for over 40 years. And now when you buy LifeSource, you can save up to $1,000 with the no sales tax special. Call 800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com. And soon, warranty limitations apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron appears to be getting close to making his debut this season with the Lakers. The Lakers are sending LeBron to their G League affiliate, the South Bay Lakers, to give him some practice time and game action. LeBron, who turns 41 on December 30th, has missed the Lakers' first 11 games and all of training camp and the preseason. He's been sidelined with a sciatic nerve injury in his lower back and left leg. LeBron has not been able to practice with the Lakers, which prompted the move to send him to the G League. LeBron has been cleared to participate in 5-on-5 workouts with the South Bay team beginning Thursday. The next game for South Bay is Sunday at 5 p.m. against the Rip City Remix, the Portland Trailblazers G League affiliate. Sunday's game is a home game for South Bay, which plays at the UCLA Health Training Center in El Segundo. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Whoa,
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about. I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Protect yourself from Medicare card scams. Scammers may call, email, or even knock on your door claiming they need your Medicare info, asking for money or threatening to cancel your benefits. Don't fall for it. It's a scam. Remember, Medicare doesn't need to verify your information. They already have it. Medicare won't charge you for a new card and will never threaten to cancel benefits. Check your Medicare statements for suspicious charges and report scams to the California Senior Medicare Patrol at 1-855-613-7080. We're here to help.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel. Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That pun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Wealthy Wednesdays and our conversations with Atiba. Atiba has worked as a TV political contributor for BNC News, The Heat, In the Know with Mo. He is a very special contributor to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Atiba, welcome forward to the show.
Hey, Jesse. It's good to be
Jill,
here.
Atiba, you brought a very special guest with you today, Mr. Gareth Daly. I think I'm going to allow the opportunity to introduce him. Gareth, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Garrett.
Would you like to handle the introduction? I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, so Garrett, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're traveling a bit today in Jamaica. First off, I want to say thank you for what you and so many others are doing in terms of capturing the stories and just providing aid and relief in whatever form and manner that you can right now in Jamaica. I will share that my nephew and his wife and family live in Jamaica. So more so than maybe even normal, I was really paying attention to what was happening in Jamaica and what has happened in terms of the devastation. I know a lot has happened on that western coast of Jamaica. But Natalie was on our show a couple of weeks ago, and she talked to us about what it was like for her going through the storm. So that we were hopeful that you might come also and share just some of the things too that you are now seeing. I know that she told me a story about a young girl that you came across. If you want to tell us about you and tell us some of the things that you're doing there in Jamaica, and then if you might share some stories of people that are there. And the hope is also that this will also make us also not just informed about what's going on, but also do whatever it is that we can do to continue helping you.
All right. Afternoon, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. So my name is Gareth Daly, and I'm a filmmaker. I'm a CEO at GD Films, which is a production company based in Kingston here. So we do video production from concept development to execution. You come to us, you come with an idea, we help you develop that idea, and then we take it through the process. So normally, maybe fortunate or unfortunate, when there's a national disaster or natural disaster or anything of American related story, I'm privileged to be working with all of these networks, news networks we're talking about. So since 2004, I've had the privilege to work for ABC News and all the major networks that come to this island. When you live on an island and you're in a community as a small film community, everybody basically knows you. I used to work at the national TV station, that's Television Jamaica. So that's where I get that's where I was groomed in terms of as a video journalist or as a film until I traveled and I started doing filmmaking. So when I got the news that when I tuned in and I realized that there was a hurricane coming in Jamaica, we have not a serious, well, we had a hurricane last year, which was Hurricane Beryl, and it devastated the south side, St. Elizabeth to be frank or to be specific. And if you know Jamaica, St. Elizabeth is the breadbasket. That's where we get most of our vegetables and our fruits from. That comes to Kingston. Kingston is like the New York of Jamaica. So therefore, the farmers come into Kingston to sell all their produce and so on. So naturally, I started preparing myself because there's an hurricane coming here, and I was told that it's going to be a serious one based on just watching the hurricane. I was fortunate to be working with CBS News as a fixer on the ground. So I was in charge of the crew to make sure that they get a good hotel to stay at, a safe one, just to make the connections and the links and whatever they want to do in terms of interviews. We were on the ground, and it was, for me, it was kind of strange to hear that a hurricane is coming, but it was at sea for quite a bit of days. It was like, it was lingering out there. It was just out there. We watching it, and we're expecting that it's supposed to touch land, fall, and it took forever to reach. When it finally reached, we see it move from category 1 to category 2, and when it reached category 3, we were like, oh, this is getting serious. Our last earthquake that is very memorable is Hurricane Gilbert in 1988, that destroyed Jamaica inland, outland in a serious way. So we're hoping that this hurricane, if it really is at category 3, we're hoping that it would pass us somewhat or maybe die in terms of the wind speed and everything. But then we realized that it was climbing, and the weather report was saying that expect a very serious hurricane, and then we see it goes to Category 5. I was in the street. It was strange enough because at a Category 5, we weren't hearing a lot of thunders and lightning. It was mostly wind speed, and it was mostly water sporadically coming there. So when you look in the gullies, you'd normally look into the gullies to see the amount of water flow, and then you could determine how serious the rainfall was in the hills coming down. And that was very little. We were on the street. I was in the street working with the crew when the hurricane hit land, and it was very. I've never seen any hurricane like this. It was very weird in terms of we were out there in raincoats, but we weren't running from the hurricane because there was no lightning and there was no thunder. So we were wondering what was happening. But then when we see change course, because it was supposed to come to Kingston side, and when it changed course and it went on the south side and it made a sharp 90-degree turn, and then we realized that it's going to touch St. Elizabeth and it's going to go across St. Anne, it's going to pass Trelawney, it's going to go to the tourist capital Montego Bay, and it's going to go to Negril. Then we realized that we're in for a treat because it is 1 year ago that we experienced Hurricane Beryl in St. Elizabeth. Farmers are still picking up the pieces, trying to put back their life together. And now we got a Category 5 again. So St. Elizabeth got it very seriously. Clarendon, St. Elizabeth, go across, St. Anne, Trelawney, Montego Bay, St. James, Negril, Hanover, Westmoreland. And then the very day after, because I was out there the day when it happened, when we were tracking the hurricane, we were covering the hurricane, and the day after we went to St. Elizabeth. And that's how serious I realized how the hurricane was, because then I realized there was no roof on most of the houses on the south side. Go back to Trelawney, go back to Montego Bay. But not only that, there was no roof on these houses. When you look at the trees, it looked like California. It looks like it was fire that passed through these spaces because the leaves are burnt. There was no leaves. The trees are standing still. When you look at some of the photographs, and I'm sure you'll have seen some of these photographs, it looked like it was fire that passed through these places. So it was a very strange time in this hurricane, Melissa. And then you start to get the news. But a lot of places didn't have electricity, didn't have internet, and still doesn't have electricity or internet. So we could not get a lot of updates in terms of how much casualty that we had and the extent of the damage unless people were going into these spaces. Enough of these places were impassable. Like when we go to St. Elizabeth, the famous Allan Bambo, which is, for people who don't know Allan Bambo, it's a corridor with the bamboo trees making an arch for a couple miles well. And when you visited that place, and it looks like someone literally torched the place, there was no green leaves, there was no bamboo tree standing, and some of the roads were cut off. You couldn't venture into Black River. And then you start to hear the news for persons like the military who go to these places to come back to tell you that, hey, some places are impassable. And then you realize that you had to do. And then when the Prime Minister did a helicopter tour, now via helicopter, then we start to see the images coming out. And then we start to realize how serious St. Elizabeth got hit. We start to realize Westmoreland. We start to realize Hanover, Trelawney, and all of those places start to get in. Like, we start to see the extent of the damage. For me, I'm from Trelawney. I'm from a farming community by the name of Ulster Spring, Trelawney, which is in South Trelawney, which is between Manchester and Falmouth. And when after I finished working with the crew, I head out the 2nd of November. I remember it like it was yesterday. And when I went to this space, went to my community where my mom still lives, I realized that nobody has ventured into this space in terms of there was no news coming out. People couldn't know if there still have family members who are still alive. And then people start to reach out to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, Gareth, in just a moment, we're going to come forward on our show and
no problem.
And allow you to continue what's taking place for our people in the country of Jamaica. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. We're having conversations with Atiba, and we're very grateful for Gareth Daly being on our show. He's giving us a firsthand account of what's taking place on the island and its long-term ramifications for the people of Jamaica. and all of the assistance that we're going to try our very best to provide. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. More conversation with Atiba when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Established in 2020 during a time of deep racial unrest across our state and country, the Black Freedom Fund was created to make sure that leaders and organizations working to support Black communities and build power have the resources they need to stay in the fight for the long haul. We believe that those closest to the issues impacting our communities know best how to solve them. That's why in just the last 5 years, we've granted more than $45 million to over 200 grassroots organizations across California. That is the largest collective investment in Black organizing in history, and we're just getting started. We are clear-eyed and committed, more now than ever, to our people, our power, and our possibility. Join us in creating a future where Black people harness their full power to shape their lives and realize a just world for all. Learn more at fundblackfreedom.org. That's fundblackfreedom.org. The Black Freedom Fund is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to Wealthy Wednesdays and Conversations with Atiba. Atiba has worked as a TV political contributor and former Deputy Executive Director of the National Black Caucus of State Legislators. Our very special guest is none other than Gareth Daly, who is the CEO of GD Films. He captured the heart of a new generation of Jamaican musicians in a film that was officially selected for the 2025 Scarlark Film Festival in Negril, Westmoreland. The soft launch of Journey, a documentary about the Alpha School of Music, which follows members of the institution's first graduating class, the journey of 4 final year students, drummer Sanjay Landell, the first graduate of Alpha's vocational program to move on to the tertiary music studies, drummer and valedictorian Jonathan Gordon, bassist Alejandro Keating, and violinist vocalist Zuri Gordon, the first woman to study music at Alpha, unfolds through the lens and director of Gareth M. Daly. Gareth is on the ground in Jamaica, and he's giving us a very, very difficult account of what the hurricane did and the nature of the devastation. With that said, let me allow Garrett to continue his thinking, as well as any questions that Atiba may have to the top of the show.
Thanks for having me again, Mr. Jackson Atiba. So, as I was saying, I'm from a community, a farming community, which people livelihood that side is either farming or trade work. If they're a trade work, if they're a mason, if they're a cabinet maker, that kind of vibes. So when I went to the community, it pains my heart to see places that I remember seeing as a child growing up, like houses in the space. They were no longer there. They were either totally blown away or everybody lose their roof in some spaces. And at that time, I realized how visible the community was. I didn't know that so much people live in some of these pockets because the hurricane blew away every green leaves that you could think about. And I said to someone, if you're on the ground, it's a total different experience other than when you see photographs and pictures coming out of Jamaica. I have friends who have been to Black River, and the stories are horrible. Like, I was talking to someone on the phone because the only way you could communicate, unless you have a Starlink that we could use to communicate in many of these spaces, and still up to today, which is the 12th of November, there are a lot of places without electricity. There's a lot of places without internet communication. People in my community that had to drive like an hour and a half to communicate, to get news to their family, or to get news, go to Montego Bay. I'll paint a picture for you that if you're traveling on the highway in Montego Bay the week after, the very same week at the hurricane or days after the hurricane, you'll see people lining up on the highway and you're wondering if there's an accident. But that's the only space that someone gets a cell service, and you have people that's parking up on the road trying to get message to loved ones outside of St. Anne, in Kingston or abroad, to just give an account for that they're alive. And that's all people wanted to do, to just say, okay, I'm alive and well, I'm not dead. And then also now the next phase where people start to clean up. And then in that process, people don't have any food because Kingston is the hub where most of the business place and the head offices are. So therefore, everything is transported out of Kingston to the countryside and so on. One of the challenges that we're having is that I don't think food is the issue on the ground now, as I was talking to someone earlier, because we have been getting help. We have been getting aid from many countries, many partners outside of Jamaica. A lot of non-profit organizations have been coming in. A lot of personal family members have been flying in because the airports are about to open. So therefore, people are coming in, packing barrels and helping. What is missing right now, I think the food is not either distributing properly on the ground, or people are still without roof. So in my community, when I look and when I went there last week with a team of my crew members that team up, and people have been very supportive, calling me, making donations, sending stuff, asking me to pick up stuff here and there. When I go to the community, there's a lady, she has 4 children. She's a mother of 4. And she was sweeping out the water out of her space, and there's no roof. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, why make sense to sweep out the water out of your roof, out of your house? Because in 5 minutes time or 10 minutes time, there was the next shower rain, because we're still in the rainy season. We're still in the hurricane season. So the hurricane season ends November 30th. So people were still having rainfall. People are still without roof. And, it is that challenge. And then I don't think the aid is spreading out as fast as it's supposed to be or should be. And when you're in crisis, if it's one day, it feels like 100 days, because it feels like help is not coming. What the government have been doing. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Gareth, I want to give Atiba a chance to ask a question here, and we're coming to the very top of the show. But I know why that lady was sweeping the water out of her house. It's what she had.
Yes, that's
And,
what she had.
and I know that feeling, that it's mine, and I've got to.
So it's almost like hope. She have hope, and
That's
this
the
is
hope.
all that she have.
That's the hope.
And there's no other way that she can cope with this situation.
I've been in that space. Atiba?
Now, Gareth, first of all, I just want to tell you, I appreciate you telling the story, just in terms of where you talked about the trees and it looking like had been burned on, category 1, category 2, category 3. Everything you've said is just, it's heart-wrenching, because what we don't, we saw what happened with Katrina years ago in New Orleans. But where you all are on an island, there was no land between you and that hurricane. It just came and
came
over there. Where and what is it that, if you could tell us, that we can, if there's things that we can do? I know you were getting to the point where what else is that we can do? I know you said that there's food that's getting there. Is there drinking water? Do people need, what other supplies or things do people need?
So there is drinking water, because
Gareth,
we have a couple of.
Gareth, we have about 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Okay, cool. We have a couple of companies that distribute bottled water, so we have clean waters. I think what we need is medical supplies, and we need, in terms of roofing for a lot of the persons, in terms of zinc roof. We're a population that we use a lot of zinc, maybe different from. So that's what we need right now, just to help people to get back on their feet. And the schools, a couple of the schools don't have any electricity. So in my community, what I'm trying to raise is to buy a generator, so therefore I can help them to start back school, because schools cannot start back without electricity. And most of these students would have gone through COVID, and they're reliving this all over again. So GD Films is my company. I know there's a lot of non-profit organization. There's the government website that people can do donation. But my company, if anybody willing to assist in terms of getting a generator for Alberton High School just to start back school, that is one of my immediate project that I'm working on. My number, you can just go on gdfilms.co if anyone wants to reach out, or on my social media, GD Films, across the board. And then we can see how best we can partner to help these schools and to get people on their feet.
Can you give us that information one more time, Gareth? Can you give us that information on how we can contact you one more time? Take your time.
So my website is gdfilms.co, or GD Films on any social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can just reach out, and my number is there on my social media, so people can reach out directly to me, and my email address is there if anybody wants to help.
Tiba?
I wish that there was, and I wish that there was something that we could say, but I just, I keep going back to this. We're part of a global community, and we often, hear Gareth are talking about the divisions that we have in this country, and I just keep trying to think of where where places we tear down the barriers to inclusion. And I think part of that is recognizing we are a global community. And so what affects you all affects us. I'm here in Miami. I definitely understand what you're talking about in terms of the rainy season. Florida has not been hit the way that Jamaica has been hit this year. But the hurricanes are getting worse and worse. And it's important that we continue to share stories about what happened in Jamaica, because the other thing that we are hearing now, at least that I'm reading, is that a storm of the type that Beryl was, and the storm that Maria was in Puerto Rico, and storm like Melissa that hit Jamaica, these are becoming natural occurrences, not unnatural. They're going to be coming, and we're going to have more and more. So thank you so much for taking time today to share what you're seeing there.
Gareth and Atiba,
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being on our show. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More with Atiba next week on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Former NFL star Antonio Brown is out on bond and can work while wearing an ankle monitor as he faces attempted murder charges in Miami.
He is on video attacking the victim and chasing him down and shooting at him.
His lawyer says he acted in self-defense during a May shooting. Brown was extradited from Dubai after 5 months and surrendered his passport. Sean Diddy Combs may lose his phone and commissary privileges for 3 months after being caught on an unauthorized three-way call. The 56-year-old is serving 4 years for transporting to engage in prostitution, but could cut time through a prison rehab program. And Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic will step down when his term ends February 28th. The first Black and openly gay regional Fed president, Bostic's exit could pave the way for more rate cuts. Fed Chair Jerome Powell praised his leadership and service. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron appears to be getting close to making his debut this season with the Lakers. The Lakers are sending LeBron to their G League affiliate, the South Bay Lakers, to give him some practice time and game action. LeBron, who turns 41 on December 30th, has missed the Lakers' first 11 games and all of training camp and the preseason. He's been sidelined with a sciatic nerve injury in his lower back and left leg. LeBron has not been able to practice with the Lakers, which prompted the move to send him to the G League. LeBron has been cleared to participate in 5-on-5 workouts with the South Bay team beginning Thursday. The next game for South Bay is Sunday at 5 p.m. against the Rip City Remix, the Portland Trailblazers G League affiliate. Sunday's game is a home game for South Bay, which plays at the UCLA Health Training Center in El Segundo. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580, standing with you in perilous times. If you've been impacted by the federal government shutdown or the discontinuation of SNAP benefits, you can find a food bank near you that's offering free groceries by going to lafoodbank.org or call 211. Additionally, LA County offers free meals at certain parks. There are meals and snacks for kids and seniors. Visit parks.lacounty.gov to find out which centers are offering which programs and to register in advance. And in addition to offering 2 free meals per day for all students, the LA Unified School District provides weekend meal kits for its students by request. Meal kits can be picked up on Fridays at grab-and-go locations. Please visit lausd.org/Cafe LA. That's lausd.org/CAFELA. We keep us safe. We keep us provided for. We keep us connected. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to Wealthy Wednesdays with Jesse Jackson Jr. Reverend Dr. Todd Urey, 1 foot in the pulpit, 1 foot in the courtroom, will be joining us shortly, and give him a moment to come up to the program. But I was just reflecting upon the feeling that I have in my stomach about what's taking place with respect to Altadena. And I don't think Mr. Pedro Pizarro fully appreciates what it is that we're experiencing or how we're feeling. It just feels like Tulsa. I mean, it feels like if we lose something by unnatural disaster, that is man's hatred towards other men and women, and they take our community and they burn it, and we lose our community by fire, by electrical fire, a unnatural, if you will, disaster, but we still lose, it just harkens and makes matters even worse when we're disrespected. That's just the way I feel. So I want us to call 626-302-2255, press 1, ask to speak with Pedro Pizarro, who can be reached pedro.pizarro, Pizarro at SCE.com. And I think that the president of this Southern California Edison owes Mr. Smiley a phone call and a delegation of people that hopefully will accompany Tavis to meet with him, not surrogates, not representatives, but with him. This is going to be a very difficult and different Thanksgiving for many of us in the Altadena neighborhood. Mr. Pizarro makes $12 million a year. And so your Thanksgiving is going to be relatively steady. Our Thanksgiving is going to be a little more difficult and a little more troubling and emotionally very difficult for people who have had to weather this. And we deserve a phone call and a sit-down conversation between Mr. Smiley and the representatives that he puts together. So I want to say something about that. I want to play a clip on Veterans Day. My producer has a clip. Gina, can you run the clip for me?
Now we have a special Faceism report for Black History Month.
Our colleague David Ono joining us with a deep and sobering look into a secret chapter from our nation's military past.
In 1943, poet Langston Hughes wrote, "You tell me that Hitler is a mighty bad man. I guess he took lessons from the Ku Klux Klan. I ask you this question because I want to know how long I got to fight both Hitler and Jim Crow." That poem perfectly sums up the life of a black soldier in World War II. And we call this episode of Faceism The Secret Document.
Castle Aganolfi has been sitting high above the stunning Italian coastline for 1,500 years. There are many stories in its past, but there's one in particular that teaches us about America.
Between Georgia.
Italian historian Davide del Guadice takes me to this ancient fortress where during World War II, an incredible American soldier named Vernon Baker single-handedly did something unimaginable.
He destroyed one German tank and several bunkers.
Baker was part of a segregated African-American unit whose mission was to capture the castle. He set out with 25 men. Almost all were killed, the rest wounded. But he kept fighting, dodging minefields, knocking out machine gun nests and watchtowers, and taking on German after German. Thanks to his courage, the castle was captured and Baker was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. But with such an incredible feat, why not our highest award, the Medal of Honor?
Did any African Americans receive the Medal of Honor during World War II? The answer is no, during the World War II era.
There's a lot more to Colonel Kowalski Salter's answer, but first you have to hear the history of the black soldier in America.
Minorities in the military have always been an integral part of our military service.
From the Revolutionary War on, the African-American soldier has always distinguished himself with honor, fighting for our freedom, even though in many cases, freedom was denied to him. In fact, one of the most legendary units in our history is known as the Buffalo Soldier, all African Americans famous for their toughness.
Between 1866 and 1891, they were awarded 18 Medals of Honor.
Colonel Salter has a PhD in military history specializing in African Americans. He says Vernon Baker's story is just a glimpse at the realities of being black in World War II.
And so it was a secret document.
To truly understand, the Colonel shows me a once secret document from 1925. It's from the Army War College, which at the time was where primarily white officers in the Army would go to further their military education.
The subject is the use of Negro manpower in war.
It's a hateful study the Army War College used right up to World War II, teaching officers about African American soldiers. It's 60 pages, but its main points are summarized on page 1.
The Negro is physically qualified for combat duty. He is by nature subservient and believes himself to be inferior to the white man. He cannot control himself in the fear of danger. He has not the initiative and resourcefulness. He is mentally inferior to the white man.
It turns back all of the great things that African Americans had done.
Due to this study and blatant racist stereotyping, African Americans weren't allowed to fight until late in the war, and that's when Vernon Baker and so many others proved that study wrong.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Vernon Joseph Baker. We're going to talk about him for a few moments when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attention, have you racked up $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is notifying consumers about significant debt relief options currently being made available to help those with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of credit card debt for those who qualify. You don't need to declare bankruptcy or take out a consolidation loan, and you may only have to pay back a fraction of what you owe, even if you have bad credit. National Debt Relief has already reduced the credit card debt for more than 550,000 consumers. So don't wait. If you owe $10,000, $20,000, or even $100,000 in credit card debt, you can now take advantage of this financial debt relief as the cost of living continues to skyrocket. To check what debt reduction you may qualify for, call 800-237-8585. That's 800-237-8585. Again, that's 800-237-8585.
This Thanksgiving at Total Wine & More, find bourbons and Cabernets that you adore. Our helpful guides are so friendly and nice, so many bottles to try at the lowest price. So gather with friends as you sit down to eat. Grateful for all who made Thanksgiving complete.
With curbside pickup and delivery available and the lowest prices for over 30 years, you'll always find what you love and love what you find. Only at Total Wine & More.
Drink responsibly, B21.
An official message from Medicare.
Medicare plans change from one year to the next. And this year, it's important for you to review your current coverage and compare all your options during Medicare open enrollment. Compare health plans, drug coverage, and costs. See if you can save some money, and don't forget to make sure your drugs are covered. Open enrollment ends December 7th. Visit Medicare.gov or call 1-800-MEDICARE.
Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, KBLA Talk 1580. We're celebrating and continuing to celebrate our men and women of valor. Vernon Joseph Baker, born December 17, 1919, died July 13, 2010, was a United States Army First Lieutenant who was an infantry company platoon leader during World War II and a paratrooper during the Korean War. In 1997, he was awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest military decoration for valor, for his actions on April 5th through the 6th, 1945, near Viareggio, Italy. That's 52 years he waited for the Medal of Honor. Baker and 6 other Black Americans who served in World War II were formally awarded the Medal of Honor on January 12, 1997. A day later, Baker, the only living recipient, and representatives for the 6 other men were given the awards by President Bill Clinton at a ceremony at the White House in Washington, D.C. The 7 recipients were the first and only Black Americans to be awarded the Medal of Honor for World War II. Baker died in 2010 at the age of 90 and was interred at Arlington National Cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. This is Wealthy Wednesdays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and none other than the great Dr. Todd Erie, both a minister and a lawyer, practices both in the courtroom and preaches every Sunday. Yuri, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Always good to be with you. I appreciate the remembrance of those who have served this nation better than the nation has served them.
It couldn't have been better said. Dr. Yuri, can we talk about that duality for a moment? That outward need to defend the only experiment in human history that allows us to change it and reinvent itself and move it forward, and the great challenge of coming home from defending very rights that we are not entitled to when we return home.
Yeah, Dr. Du Bois talked about this odd phenomenon called double consciousness. Talked about being Black and American in the same frame. That there's an internal struggle that is always at play, and it is often the Blackness side that is resisting being consumed by the American side. Unreconciled strivings. And when we think about the core of who we are, both genetically, but also practically in terms of the examples that have been set for us in community, that it is actually part of our profile to engage in those missions, those assignments, if you will, that are bigger than we are. And so we defend notion. Doing so is the honorable or right thing to do, only to find out that honor is reserved for a few. And the few rarely look like us. And we saw it actually yesterday in the president's presentation at Arlington in honoring certain veterans. We certainly don't besmirch their commitment or their sacrifice, but I did not see an acknowledgement of one military person of color yesterday on Veterans Day at Arlington.
A great tragedy, and the kind of social consciousness that is obviously evident in this presidency, the lack of inclusiveness. Obviously, our men and women who have served this nation since the Revolutionary War, in every single war, every single contest, the Negro has been present. And I shared with our listeners earlier, Dr. Yuri, that no July 4th in this country is the same. Every July 4th is a different iteration of what it means to be an American. And probably no group of people in the history of the nation have been more engaged in the defining of what it means to be an American. So many Americans want to go back to the illusion of the words of Thomas Jefferson on July 4th, 1776, but July 4th, 1863 in Gettysburg, it's a different definition. July 4th, 1964, after the passage of the Civil Rights Act or the Voting Rights Act, July 4th, 1965. The July 4th in 1968 is a different America that we literally walk into. And for women, after the passage of the 19th Amendment, the amendments and the history of the country before the passage of the 19th Amendment, those July 4ths were very different for women until they had the right to vote and could equally participate in the society. I could just walk down the whole litany of American history, including the history of Native Americans, as the Supreme Court at this hour is now reconsidering a 120-year-old case, 130-year-old case about indigenous rights and their right to try themselves on their own lands. Each of these July 4ths is different. And yet, this dual nature of what it means to be Black and American is an ever-present reminder of the great challenge of the unfinished business of what it means to be an American.
Yeah, you almost have to catch your breath after that. I suggest we ought never forget that there is no July 4, 1776, if there is not March 5, 1770.
Mm.
March 5th, 1770 is when Crispus Attucks died in the Revolutionary War.
Mm.
First person, I don't even know if they referred to him as an American because there was no America yet.
Mm.
And so when we think about the cause of this proposition called representative democracy or a republic, very often it has been the sacrifice of, the Buffalo Soldiers of the world, the Tuskegee Airmen of the world, the sisters who fixed a broken mail system in the entire U.S. Army, right? We cannot forget the sacrifice of the sisters as well. And I'm marked. The first time I ever, outside of high school, heard your father speak, he came to my home, where you'll be in a few weeks. He talked about his remembrance of the story in his own family, going to fight in World War II, coming back with victory only to find themselves seated in train cars behind German POWs. There's something about the contradiction. That's what Dr. Du Bois is talking about. Because to be African American, to be Black in America, is to constantly wrestle with the recognition that no matter how much contribution or sacrifice you might make, it is often viewed as your obligation as opposed to your commitment. And so they come up with false frameworks like meritocracy. We see it with the military now. The current, quote, Secretary of War, moving anybody and everybody out of the way that doesn't have a certain complexion or a certain gender assignment to be leaders of the military, removed the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, 4-star, to call out of retirement a 3-star general to take his place because he liked his name. It's that kind of trivializing of the sacrifices that we ought never forget as we go about our daily affairs in terms of our civic engagement. There's so many subplots, so many supporting stories that ought to inspire us every single day to never give in to the kind of tyranny that is emerging in the country in this moment.
Todd, I don't live very far from the gravesite of Jesse Owens, who in the middle of Hitler's march to white supremacy and to Nazism and to being the supreme leader of the German Republic, here comes this African American athlete who defies the odds of the superior race and wins Olympic gold medals. I think in this moment, even though I was not born during the era of Jesse Owens, but I like to think I can reflect upon the story. I think about Joe Louis versus Max Schmeling, and Dad sharing with us how they sat around the radio. And on one side of town, obviously, we're all pulling for Joe Louis. And on the other side of town, they're pulling for Max Schmeling. And what Jackie Robinson had to go through, no different than the soldier, but just in their different spheres of their own excellence, they had to confront that same duality. And in each case, Jesse Owens's patriotism, Joe Louis's patriotism, Jackie Robinson's patriotism, the Pullman Porters and their patriotism. Martin Luther King Jr. always wanted the American flag to be present at our nonviolent protests, along with the Bible. To what do we owe the allegiance of our patriotism in face of the mountains of resistance that we have experienced as a people?
Well, the Bible puts it this way: to whom much has been given, much is required. Not expected, it's an obligation. We inherited progress. Our struggle is not the struggle of the generations before us, because they did their sacrificing in their day. It's our time, and we have to do it critically, intentionally, and we have to do it credibly, because there's a generation coming after us that, unfortunately, it appears that we may pass a baton to them that looks more like regression than advancement. And so we owe it to our forebears to first remember. There's nothing that is more tragic to the liberation of a people than amnesia. And amnesia that is intentional is not amnesia, it's ignorance. You choose not to remember. There's no other culture that I've seen that has been able to sustain itself that did not etch in the foundation of their progress the memory, the remembrance of what their ancestors had done before them. We too must do the same, and we must do it because we have so much to point to and to celebrate. To overlook it, to deny it, is not only problematic, it's sinful.
I am struck by the sacrifice in spite of, and the willingness to persevere, the persistence and the resilience of our people, and the lessons that the weight, not just the lessons, but the weight of the history of the Republic and the democratic experiment that we that we carry. Some people are talking about no kings, but we've lived in a country where there was a king. Some immigrants have never experienced a king. We from 1619 to 1776, that's exactly what we had. What was a king? So we have some sense that our existential existence has gone through these cycles of tyrants, of presidents who, in their own tyranny, at least the first 15 of them didn't advance the idea of ending the peculiar institution of slavery until we got to the 16th president. And from the 16th president forward, we have been fighting quite a different fight, really, to civilize America. America is not civilized without the struggle of Black folks in this country, fighting for rights that everyone who comes after us gets to benefit from. Dr. Uri, I know we have about a minute before we come forward, and then I'm going to turn this over to you.
You always pass me a hot.
I probably shouldn't turn over to 30 seconds, should I? Listen, I'm Jesse Jackson. You're listening. We are going to figure out these ins and outs as best we possibly can. More will be coming forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. A fascinating conversation with Dr. Todd Uri about the duality of African Americans, about the struggle we face in every facet of life. Don't think you're special. Don't think you can avoid it. Don't think just because you're in the military, it only applies to you. It applies in boxing. It applies in football. It applies in sport. It applies in a restaurant. It applies on the bus. You name it. The Negro in America has experienced it. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Wealthy Wednesdays.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. The White House says the government will reopen soon. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt told reporters President Trump plans to sign the funding bill once it clears the House, expected tonight.
Tonight, thanks to Republicans, the White House is very hopeful that this shutdown is going to come to an end.
She again blamed Democrats for the 43-day shutdown. Black Democratic State Rep Adeline Clark of Mobile has pre-filed a bill to make voting easier for disabled Alabamians. House Bill 45 would let them choose someone to vote for them, something currently punishable as a Class C felony. And New York Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani attended the grand opening of the National Urban League Empowerment Center in Harlem. The site includes 177 housing units, office space, and will soon host New York's first HBCU and the Urban Civil Rights Museum, opening in 2026. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Families have been loving LifeSource Whole House Water Systems for over 40 years. And now when you buy LifeSource, you can save up to $1,000 with the no sales tax special. Call 800-WATER-99 or visit lifesourcewater.com. And soon, warranty limitations apply.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
LeBron appears to be getting close to making his debut this season with the Lakers. The Lakers are sending LeBron to their G League affiliate, the South Bay Lakers, to give him some practice time and game action. LeBron, who turns 41 on December 30th, has missed the Lakers' first 11 games and all of training camp and the preseason. He's been sidelined with a sciatic nerve injury in his lower back and left leg. LeBron has not been able to practice with the Lakers, which prompted the move to send him to the G League. LeBron has been cleared to participate in 5-on-5 workouts with the South Bay team beginning Thursday. The next game for South Bay is Sunday at 5 p.m. against the Rip City Remix, the Portland Trail Blazers G League affiliate. Sunday's game is a home game for South Bay, which plays at the UCLA Health Training Center in El Segundo. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that deeply impacts Black families. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and the risk is twice as high compared to white adults. But AD isn't just forgetting a name or losing track of time. Signs of early AD could be repeating questions, missing appointments, or struggling with bills and daily tasks. These things aren't a normal part of aging. Here's the good news. Treatments are available that may help if AD is diagnosed early. If you notice changes in memory or daily routines, whether in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalsearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more about the signs and symptoms and a potential treatment option. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues? Who are you? Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
It all comes down to this, folks.
Yep, the entire season is on the line.
But my throat has officially thrown in the towel. Sounds like you need Vicks VapoCool drops. They're max strength and vaporize sore throat pain.
Whoa! These VapoCool drops hit fast.
Speaking of fast, did you just see that play?
Yeah, he vaporized that ball.
That fun should have come with a penalty.
Vaporize sore throat pain with Vicks VapoCool drops. Use as directed.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. 1580. S. Todd Yeary is the principal of the Yeary Firm, a Maryland-based litigation and government relations firm, and he also serves as senior pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church of Baltimore and affiliates. Dr. Yeary is also former chief executive officer of the Rainbow Push Coalition, the international human rights organization founded by my father, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Dr. Yeary's social justice work includes having served on the national board of the National Action Network from 2015 to 2021, past political action chair for the Maryland State Conference of the NAACP, as a co-founding principal of the Community Churches for Community Development, Inc., and as founding principal of SALT, a faith-based public policy collaborative that works on regional and national empowerment strategies impacting disaffected communities. Dr. Yeary, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and to your show, The Politics of Our Faith on Wealthy Wednesdays.
Yeah, well, it's good to be with you. I appreciate the privilege of hanging out with you. I'm not sure which gets tested more, our politics or our faith, but they seem to be in a very tense moment.
I can't think of a better person to handle it. I want to go back to that duality in every aspect of American life that W.E.B. Du Bois talked about when he talked about the hybrid nature. Dr. King also recognized the hybrid nature. Jesse Jackson recognized the hybrid nature when he referred to us as African Americans. And this struggle between being a so-called Black American versus being an African American or even a Negro American was always very contentious because in the English language, the uniqueness of the English language, almost everything Black has referred to something negative. Black Friday, stock market crash, it's a black day. Just every negative connotation of the word. And yet we have strived as a people to have a unique identification that is both tied to our continent, our motherland. Jesse Jackson pushes it to another level, African American, from the idea of the Negro in America and the other names that we've been called throughout history, Dr. Yeary. That hybrid nature of what it means to be us is a constant source of reflection, Dr. Yeary.
Yeah, you know, every time you bring it up, I think about how we have been given tremendous models of what it means to live beyond the reach of our circumstance. Whether it is Dr. King and SCLC and working in that very organic arena with all of the other committed civil rights organizations of the day, SNCC, CORE, and the like. But what I remember is at the LA Coliseum, it's the intro to the broadcast every Saturday for Rainbow Push Coalition. And it's your father with, he got a whole bush, it's in place, the dashiki is tight, you got a whole audience, a crowd in a stadium that is packed, and he is separating condition from identity. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody. That we don't accept this notion that somehow or other our plight becomes our person. And so that gives us the ability to tap into that reservoir of hope that allows us to rise above our circumstances. And when you talk about everything that is often labeled as evil being dark or black, actually, Mama Marimba Ani, in one of her first pieces, it is a classic, everybody ought to have it, Let the Circle Be Unbroken, talks about that duality, that dichotomy, that we are often put in a position where we're forced to choose. In this moment, the word that keeps coming up is, are you a patriot? Well, if we're not defining patriotism, then I can't tell you whether or not my functional role is that I'm a patriot. My identity at my core is I'm an African in America. And when we think about James Baldwin's critique and others of that day, they were very, very clear that our consciousness is beyond the reach of our imprisonment. And we are imprisoned, whether we have cells or walls or whatever. We are imprisoned in a cultural context that functions with low self-esteem and some sense of paranoia that somehow or other anybody that is the other or different is going to somehow deny them of their entitlement that only became known as whiteness when the economic interest of folks who had different hues came into synergy and partnership over and against the elite. We've been hustled for 250 plus years. And the vast majority of us are still wrestling with the authenticity that is needed to be able to meet the challenge. And so on acknowledging Veterans Day and remembering, you always put on a camouflage uniform. I remember getting my olive drab uniform when I enlisted and went to the reception station at what was then Fort Jackson, South Carolina. But no matter how much camouflage I put on, my hair would give me away, my skin would give me away, the cadence in my voice would give me away. There's something about the uniqueness of who we are that we ought to affirm and never be ashamed of, so that we can take our rightful place in the universal dialogue of what is the human rights conversation in the 21st century.
You know, I think in this moment about the complexity of our existence at every level of who we are. And even with Southern California Edison and the letter that we at KBLA Tavis received, it doesn't take into account our sensibilities. All of this history in this moment, when a large company doesn't pay us the courtesy of a returned phone call or grant us a meeting, which just harkens back to the dismissal of our personhood. Yes, there are serious sensibilities that come out of this historical juxtaposition. Our soldiers carry it, our Pullman porters carried it, our civil rights activists carry it. Every man, woman who is stuck in traffic at this hour is carrying it, knowing that you don't live in the central business district. You may drive to it. You may be stuck on the interstate, on the highway in it, but you're going to somewhere where the central business district ain't. And so your life is spent in traffic, fighting a different kind of struggle as a person of color living further and further away from the downtown and corporate centers of America. We live with the disparity every day. And when something as basic as returning our phone call, Brother Pedro.Pizarro@sce.com doesn't earn us the respect of returning our phone call, there's a part of us that just boils over with resentment and regrets. And so I continue to tell people to call 626-302-2255, press number 1, ask for Mr. Pedro Pizarro, because we want to talk about how we're being treated in Altadena. We have earned the right to have have a conversation about our personal property that was lost. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on the politics of our faith with Dr. S. Todd Yeary. More when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code MAJOR25 to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code MAJOR25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code MAJOR25 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, we've been reflecting upon the duality of the Negro's existence and how complex it is with the history of our understanding and how so many immigrant groups come to the United States who have inherited rights that we have fought for and died for, and how we bring all of these sensibilities to the table when we are in personal relationships, when we're meeting with friends and foe alike. We bring the history of a resilience, a determination, of a I'm not going to be disrespected. You are going to respect me. You're going to protect me, because all of it matters to who we are, because we have experienced those immigrants who've come to the United States having had to fight for 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. They're just welcomed by the 14th Amendment. Those immigrants, those women who came to the United States and could take advantage of the right to vote from the 19th Amendment, and the suffragettes and the extraordinary struggle that they led after the 15th Amendment that allowed African American men to vote, but not our women to participate in the process, and subsequent amendments that allowed 18-year-olds to vote in the United States. These are rights that some people inherit and feel a sense of entitlement. And these are also rights, however, that some of us have earned, that we paid a hell of a sacrifice to make this nation better for all Americans and all people. I am particularly blessed in this hour on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, The Politics of Our Faith, Wealthy Wednesdays, to have Dr. S. Todd Urey, because quite frankly, I don't know a person in public life who is better able to contextualize the struggle of our people and the existential, but also the personal reality of what it is that we bring to the table every time we buy a cup of Starbucks coffee. Dr. Urey, welcome forward to your show.
Good to be with you. I know somebody who can contextualize it better as your dad, who's still contextualizing as he is wrestling with and battling a failing frame, but a vibrant brain, if you will. Just you can see it behind his eyes that he understands the seriousness of this moment and what is required. And if we can learn how to interpret silence and hear your father speak as loudly today as he did on those platforms in 84 and 88, we would be the better for it.
Reverend Urey, can you give us a word of hope? And take your time.
Yeah, look. Let's not confuse what is apparent with that which is possible. Sometimes we filter possibility through that which is apparent, and very often that is, the thing that's most immediate to us. As I was listening to the commercials on the break, how many times our circumstances find us in positions where we're having to assume a guilt that does not apply. We take pleas because what we really want is to do what's in us to do, to be present with and for our families, to take care of them. And when we are wrongly and falsely accused, rather than get trapped in a system that would send us to some foreign country where we have no ties and no historical awareness, we have to make sure that we don't confuse that which is apparent with that which is possible, because if we do, we'll find ourselves in despair and frustrated. And to that degree, there are two things I would leave. If we were to turn to scripture as a place of insight and inspiration, there's one passage that says we should weep not in doing good, for in due season we will reap a harvest if we faint not. So don't fall out, don't flip out, don't wig out, don't cuss out. Just be present. But recognize that what you see externally may be vastly different than what you see internally. And so the text tells us that it does not yet appear, it's not yet apparent what we shall be, that there is a divine imperative that walks with us and guides us, even directs us through some of the most difficult times, that allows us to stay focused on the path and not on the stones in the way.
It is my
And so
it is my
keep
go ahead, I'm sorry.
pressing,
Hmm.
keep marching. No, I mean, that's it. Keep going. Don't stop.
Yeah.
Whatever you do, don't stop, because once you stop, you get stuck. We're not there.
It's you know, the times couldn't be more trying, right? They couldn't be more difficult. And you know, I reflect sometimes theologically on the idea that my mother once told me when I was in a whole lot of trouble, and the whole world knows all the trouble I've been in, everything that's I've been through, they know about it. She said, you know, God will never give you more trouble than you can handle. And then she turned to me and she said, Jesse Jr., God must really love you. And only my mother could twist that and wrap it up in a divine will to give me the strength to endure. And I think that's what we have to do. I think we have to wrap up everything that we confront in some kind of divine will, to know that we're not alone, to know that if we just push forward, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, that storms don't last always. And Dad often tells me that my dad, I think about him a lot. He often tells me that that we can weather storms, but knowing that storms don't last always, that there's joy that comes in the morning, that there's hope on the other side of every storm. I'm particularly grateful for that. Todd, I don't think I'm going to be able to get out of this one. So, can you end us?
Well, let me drop this on you. Let me. This is for you, my brother. Your mother gave you good Bible. 1 Corinthians 10:13. There's nothing that comes upon us except that which is part of the human experience. But God is faithful. God has been faithful to us. And that with the test, he will not leave us to be tested beyond that which we can bear. But with it, we may not know how, we may not know when, but God is faithful. And I'll hang my hat on that any day of the week.
I'm so grateful for your leadership. KBLA, so grateful for your time today. Gina and all of the engineers that help us with our program. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. I'm signing out just a few seconds early today. Grateful for your service, grateful for your listening audience, grateful for everyone who constantly prays for us. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Until tomorrow, more on KBLA Talk 1580.